Welcome back to another video on the Crestify channel. Today we are going to dive into what would have happened if Crocodile killed Luffy in Alabasta. If you are ready, then let's dive right in. Sand fills the air like smoke. The underground chamber beneath Rainbase trembles with every collapsing pillar. And in the center of that crumbling battlefield, Crocodile's golden hook is already buried straight through Monkey D Luffy's chest. The moment he lifts Luffy off the ground, the blood doesn't splash, it vanishes. Crocodile's ability drains the moisture from Luffy's body, skin cracking, eyes dulling, life being stolen grain by grain. In canon, this is where a desperate miracle happens. A hidden barrel of water, a last-second rescue, a future Emperor challenger clawing his way back from death. But what if this time there is nothing? No mysterious puddle, no Nico Robin dragging a corpse through the ruins, no Pell streaking across the sky? Luffy's body goes limp on the hook, the sand drinks what little blood remains, and the straw hat falls silently, landing face up in the dust. In that instant, the desert of Alabasta stops being another stop on a reckless adventure and becomes something else entirely. It becomes Luffy's grave, because this isn't just any rookie dying in some forgotten kingdom. This is the man who is supposed to storm Eni's lobby, burn the world government's flag, and scream a declaration of war heard across the seas. This is the future invader of Impel Down, the madman who will turn Marineford into a stage for the next era, the pirate destined to clash with emperors and stand among the strongest. Just how much does the world change when that destiny's cut off here? Long before Gear Second? Long before Conqueror's Haki shakes the sky? So here is the core question. What if Alabasta wasn't a kingdom Luffy saved, but the place where Monkey D Luffy actually died, and the world government's golden age truly began? What if Crocodile walks away from that chamber victorious, his Shichibukai status reinforced, his secret excavation of Pluton's poneglyph unchallenged? Under this desert lies the blueprint to an ancient weapon that can destroy entire islands with a single order. In a world without Luffy, who stops that power from eventually surfacing? The crazy part was that this one body in the sand doesn't just end a single journey. It rips through everything. Vivi's choice between princess and pirate, the Straw Hats' survival as a crew without the captain who pulled them together. Crocodile's rise from failed hero of Alabasta to something far more dangerous. The balance between Shichibukai, Yonko, and Marines. Marineford without the storm named Luffy. Even the race for the One Piece itself starts to warp. Because this isn't a small butterfly effect. This is the moment the great pirate era itself derails. In this timeline, the story will move step by step from that underground chamber, through the immediate chaos in Alabasta, across the shattered futures of each Straw Hat, and into a far darker ocean, where other monsters rush to fill the void Luffy leaves behind. And by the end, the question won't be, who becomes Pirate King? It will be whether anyone can stop the world that Crocodile's victory sets in motion. Rules of the what if. How one death breaks the world. To get there, the rules of this what if need to be brutally clear. Luffy does not crawl back out of that underground tomb. There is no last-minute water barrel, no hidden healer, no dragon dropping from the sky. The moment Crocodile impales him, drains him, and leaves him buried in sand, that is it. Everything up to that scene follows canon. Everything after it shatters away from that single irreversible death. This means Alabasta still burns with rebellion, Baroque Works still moves in the shadows, and Vivi still runs herself ragged, trying to stop a civil war. But what if the one variable that always breaks impossible situations simply disappears? Luffy's body is recovered too late, his heartbeat gone, his aura of reckless defiance snuffed out before it can shake the world. From that point on, every change has to grow logically from that corpse in the ruins beneath Rainbase. To understand just how much that matters, Luffy has to be seen as more than a protagonist. He is a catalyst character. In canon, the first sign of his impact is Alabasta itself. Crocodile exposed, the war stopped, a kingdom saved. Then Scipio's Sky Island is freed, Enel's rule destroyed, and a golden bell is rung that echoes across the entire sea. Robin is torn away at Eni's lobby, only for Luffy to march into a world government fortress, burn its flag, and declare war. Later, Impel Down becomes a battlefield of chaos because he breaks its order. and Marineford spirals into madness because he crashes the execution of Ace. Remove him, and those tremors never start. There is no symbol who openly humiliates the Enies lobby flag. Not no idiot captain whose defiance rallies the worst generation in the same way. No wildcard charging through Impel Down, freeing Crocodile, Jinbe, and dozens of monsters who reshape the war at Marineford. The world government's strongest institutions no longer face that specific pressure point, and the balance of power tilts quietly in their favor. At the same time, this is not just Luffy dies early. This is Luffy dying to a Shichibukai already embedded inside a kingdom that hides the poneglyph for Pluton. Crocodile stands over a dead rookie with his hook still wet, his underground army intact, his plan for an ancient weapon one step closer. As a government dog with private ambitions, he becomes the pivot of this timeline. Thanks to his new ability to operate without that straw hat interference, his influence as a warlord grows instead of collapsing, and that leads to the real long game. If the man destined to clash with Yonko never sails past Alabasta, who becomes the storm that shakes the world instead? Does Blackbeard rise faster in a calmer sea? Does Kid or Law step into that vacant role, or does Crocodile himself evolve into something far worse than a desert tyrant with a title? The next sections will follow those questions from this one corpse all the way into the Yonko era. The moment Luffy truly dies. Rewriting the Alabasta battle. To see how that one corpse reshapes everything, the story has to return to the desert. To the first real battlefield where Luffy's legend was supposed to begin and end, the moment he challenges a warlord under the burning Alabasta sun. Canon gives that scene a strange safety net. Luffy charges Crocodile with that reckless grin, convinced raw power and will are enough. Crocodile is bored, almost offended, treating the fight like a chore. His sand swallows entire dunes. His hook pierces Luffy's body. His ability drains the moisture from rubber flesh. Luffy is skewered, dehydrated, left hanging on that golden hook as the sandstorm howls around them. But what if the desert never gives him back? In the original timeline, a chain of miracles forms. A stray water barrel, a desperate splash, Nico Robin's interference, the storm itself shifting just enough to buy seconds. Here, that chain snaps. The barrel still falls, but the wind throws it wide, smashing uselessly into a distant dune. No life-saving splash, no second round, no shonen reset. And this Crocodile has learned from 100 assassination plots and failed rebellions. He does not leave loose ends. The first sign that this is a different Alabasta is the way he twists his wrist, driving the hook deeper instead of pulling away. There is no theatrical monologue, no promise that the desert will finish the job. There is only execution. The hook rips through Luffy's chest with a wet, tearing sound. Rubber stretches, then finally reaches its limit and snaps around cold steel. When Crocodile withdraws the hook, the sound is worse than the stab itself. A sticky, sucking scrape as blood spills out and vanishes instantly into hungry sand. His sand blades rise, not to intimidate, but to destroy. They slice through tendons, arteries, the entire frame of the boy who dared to punch a warlord. Luffy's heartbeat, I'd always treated like an engine that can rev back up, just stops. No gear second rhythm, no drum of liberation, only a brutal silence swallowed by the desert's dry aura. His body, already half dehydrated, begins to crumple into itself as Crocodile finishes the mummification, drawing the last traces of moisture from skin and muscle until the future Pirate King looks like any other corpse lost to the sands. Far away, Vivi freezes mid-step, a chill running through her despite the heat, as if the entire war for her kingdom just shifted against her. Zoro clashes with Baroque Works agents, Sanji trades kicks in the shadows, Usopp and Chopper scramble to survive, none of them aware that their captain's power has already been erased from the battlefield. High above, Robin watches from a balcony, eyes unreadable. And as the rookie who defied a Shichibukai dies at her employer's feet, Crocodile barely reacts. He wipes the hook clean on Luffy's vest, lets the body fall, and lets the sand swallow it. No speech, no second glance. To him, this was just pest control, the removal of a nameless rookie in the way of a far greater awakening. Pluton, the poneglyph, and total control over Alabasta. The crazy part was that, in killing the man fate had chosen to upend the world, Crocodile thinks he has simply cleared noise from his path. He turns back toward the capital and the royal tomb, unaware that this one death will echo through the entire era. Because if Luffy's story ends here, who breaks Eni's lobby? Who storms Impel Down? Who stands at Marineford when the world tremors for real? The next shockwave starts with the people left behind. Kingdom in sand and blood, Alabasta without its savior. The next shockwave is not a punch. It is a kingdom tearing itself apart. Alabasta was supposed to be the first great victory of the Straw Hats. But what if it becomes their first grave and the blueprint for a very different kind of war? Remove Luffy from the climax and the entire final raid on Rain Dinners feels wrong. Zoro can cut through Baroque works. Sanji can outthink Crocodile's agents. Nami and Usopp can scramble plans and create openings. But no one has that reckless, stupid, perfect habit of charging straight at the strongest enemy and dragging the entire battlefield's aura around him. The moment the crew realizes their captain is not just missing but dead, their coordination fractures. They still reach Alubarna. They still fight the officer agents. Yet there is no central chaos to pull Crocodile away. No rubber idiot buying time at the clock tower. That means Vivi's nightmare finally comes true. In canon, her voice is barely enough to stall the clash between rebels and royal guards. Here, with no public defeat of Crocodile, no exposed mastermind, her words are swallowed by gunfire. The first sign that history has diverged is simple. The cannon fires, and no one stops it. The rebellion crashes into the royal army at full force. Square by square, street by street, Alubarna becomes a real battlefield, not a near miss. Casualties skyrocket. Pel's sacrifice is just one explosion among dozens. Under that smoke, Crocodile's path to victory opens. He still holds his Shichibukai status. He still controls Baroque works embedded across the country. So, he lets the war burn hotter. Then, and when both sides are exhausted and the palace is half destroyed, he appears as the savior. He discovers forged evidence against Cobra, frames the royal family as the true instigators, and publicly executes a few key figures while claiming to restore order. Thanks to his new ability to play hero, he can destroy the royal bloodline in the shadows while leaving behind a puppet king who answers only to him. And beneath all of that lies the real prize, the poneglyph in the royal tomb. Without Luffy to protect her, and without that later alliance, Robin has no reason to turn on Crocodile. She reads the stone under duress, or under the quiet threat of annihilation. Pluton's location becomes a secret shared by exactly two monsters. With time, resources, and an entire desert kingdom as cover, Crocodile turns Alabasta into a launchpad to hoard an ancient weapon that can threaten the entire world. Where does that leave Vivi? This is where the story splits and both paths are tragic. In one branch, she dies in the streets, trampled between flags that once fought in her name, becoming a symbol of a kingdom that could not save itself. In the other, she lives as a powerless figurehead, a princess paraded on balconies while Crocodile's regime rots the country from within. That hopeful scene of her waving goodbye from the harbor never happens. There is no ship to wave to, and while Alabasta bleeds in the sand, somewhere out at sea, the remaining Straw Hats have to decide whether a crew without Luffy is even a crew at all. A crew without a captain. Do the Straw Hats survive Alabasta? Out on the desert, yet that question stops being theoretical the moment they see him. The first sign is not a body. It's Vivi, stumbling over a dune, dress torn, voice gone. Behind her, half buried in sand and blood, lies the straw hat that should never touch the ground. When they dig, their hands hit rubber. Luffy's chest is still. His skin is cracked and dry from Crocodile's hook and the desert's theft. Zoro doesn't shout. He just stares at the hole in Luffy's torso, fingers whitening on his sword hilts. This was the captain he swore to follow until he became the strongest swordsman. This was the man he pledged to never let fall behind him. Now the battlefield is quiet, and the only tremors are the ones running through his jaw as he clenches it hard enough to hurt. Nami drops to her knees before anyone can catch her. She survived Arlong. She survived watching her village enslaved. But what if this is the moment she realizes the grand line is worse? Tears hit the sand as she grabs Luffy's vest and shakes him, bargaining with a corpse that won't get back up. Usopp can't process it at all. He keeps insisting they're wrong, that Luffy always bounces back, that this is just another crazy stunt. His lies finally have no power, and that's what breaks him. Sanji lights his cigarette with hands that won't stop trembling. He turns away so they don't see his eyes. smoke mixing with the desert wind. The cook who fought Krieg, who defied a warlord system to follow this idiot captain, has to swallow the fact that he wasn't there when it mattered. Every drag is a silent curse at Crocodile, at the world, and at himself, and Chopper. Chopper is the one who forces Luffy's mouth open, who presses his tiny hooves to that ruined chest, who listens desperately for a heartbeat that never comes. He runs through every treatment, every herb, every trick Dr. Correa ever taught him. Nothing. For the first time, the doctor with the blue nose has to accept that his patient died alone under an enemy's boot. That's where Zoro's crisis really starts. He failed at Baratier against Mihawk and swore to never lose again. He accepted that his dream would live under Luffy's flag. Now that flag has a hole through it. Does he step up as captain? Or does he see this as proof that none of them are ready for this war? Just how much weight can one swordsman carry before it destroys him? Nami and Usopp feel the answer in their bones. Without Luffy's insane optimism, the Grand Line stops being an adventure and turns back into what it always was, a graveyard. Nami has seen a warlord's power twice now. She knows there are admirals, Yonko, and monsters beyond Crocodile. Why keep sailing toward enemies who can do this in a single strike? Usopp, who already wanted to run in Whiskey Peak and Little Garden, finally has his worst fears confirmed. The sea doesn't care about dreams. But the crazy part was that not everyone bends. Sanji refuses. Zeph gave up his leg and his dream so the kid could live. Luffy gave him a ship and a purpose beyond the Barati. For Sanji, turning back now would mean spitting on both of those sacrifices. He argues that if they scatter here, then Crocodile wins twice. He kills the captain and buries the crew's will with him. Chopper clings to that argument like a lifeline. He just found a family that accepted a monster reindeer. Losing Luffy is unbearable, but losing everyone else would be worse. So a compromise forms in the sand. One last mission. They will survive Alabasta, steal Luffy's body back from this desert, and give him a grave that isn't a forgotten dune. At that grave, they'll decide, disband and vanish into the world, or keep sailing under a dead man's flag. Because whatever choice they make, there will decide whether the Straw Hat legacy dies with a single stone, or awakens into something far darker than the carefree crew the world once laughed at. Crocodile Unleashed. From Desert Warlord to Shadow Emperor. That darker legacy needs an enemy strong enough to justify it. And on the other side of Luffy's grave, Crocodile is already evolving into exactly that. In canon, this is the point where his entire image collapses. He's dragged out as the villain who tried to destroy a kingdom from within, stripped of his Shichibukai title and thrown into Impel Down as just another failed warlord. But what if that public disgrace never happens? In this timeline, the posters and headlines tell a different story. Sir Crocodile, government ally, who stabilized a desert kingdom on the brink of civil war. The first sign of how twisted this is comes from the world government's silence. The rebellion is crushed, the royal family is discredited or quietly removed, and the casualty numbers are buried under the desert. On paper, order returns. The Marines get a report that the warlord fulfilled his duty and protected a key member nation. No one writes about the Straw Hat captain who died beneath the palace. From there, Alabasta stops being just a battlefield and becomes Crocodile's personal fortress. Baroque Works doesn't stay the goofy, half-exposed criminal brand it was. It mutates. It sheds the loud code names and cartoon villains and reforms into a quiet intelligence and assassination web that stretches across the entire Grand Line. Agents pose as merchants in Nanohane, as dock workers in Water 7, as bounty hunters on Jaya, feeding Crocodile information and eliminating threats before they ever reach his sands. Just how much stronger does a warlord become when his organization starts to look less like a joke and more like Doflamingo's underworld network? The crazy part was that Crocodile doesn't even need Pluton in his hands yet. Thanks to his new ability to access Alabasta's poneglyph without interference, even partial knowledge of the weapon turns into leverage. He can hint to the Gorosei that he's close to unlocking an ancient power. He can whisper to other Shichibukai that he knows where a kingdom killer sleeps. The moment he realizes that fear itself is a weapon, Pluton becomes less a cannon and more a bargaining chip. He can threaten to leak clues to Yonko crews, sell fragments of the truth to underworld brokers, or hold the very idea of Pluton over rival warlords like a guillotine. No one is sure how real his intel is, and that uncertainty is what destroys their confidence. Inside the Shichibukai circle, this creates a new balance. Doflamingo recognizes a kindred spirit operating behind a polite smile and a government pass. Mihawk stays aloof, but even he notices the growing aura around Alabasta. Then Kuma and the Cypherpole unit start watching the desert more closely, yet the Marines need results. As long as Crocodile keeps pirate numbers down and sends heads to Marineford, Fleet Admiral Sengoku has every excuse to keep him on the leash. Over time, the Desert Warlord starts to look less like a regional tyrant and more like a Shadow Emperor, a Dressrosa-style dictator, but with an entire ancient weapon rumor and a Holy Land-approved title backing him. And as the underworld starts whispering his name alongside Doflamingo's, a new question surfaces. In this warped ocean, which of these two becomes the true king of the underground? The next phase of this timeline will push that rivalry to its limit. No Skypiea, no Bell of Gold, the adventures that never happen. Crocodile's name is rising in the underworld. At ease, but far above that sand-choked kingdom, another route quietly disappears. In the canon story, the path from Jaya to Skypiea becomes the first real test of the Straw Hats against a self-proclaimed god. Here, that entire journey is erased before it even begins. Without Luffy, the crew's log pose never becomes a promise. It becomes a question mark. Who keeps sailing toward the Grand Line's insanity when the captain who laughed at a sea of sand is gone? Zoro might push forward out of sheer pride. Nami might cling to the log because navigation is all she has, but the aura around them changes. Instead of a crazy adventure toward the sky, every island becomes a grave reminder. The moment Bellamy would have mocked dreams in Mocktown, there is no rubber fool to stand up and throw the punch that rejects a world without dreams. So Jaya itself twists. But what if the Straw Hats still reach it as a broken, hollow crew? Bellamy's gang bullies them, steals their gold, and walks away unpunished. Shanks's flag still hangs, but no one defends its meaning. The first sign that this era will not be defined by upstart pirates challenging the strongest powers is right there. No retaliation, no declaration, no fist through Bellamy's face. And without that clash, the route to the sky never opens in spirit. Even if the knock-up stream still exists physically, up above Skypiea pays the price. Enel's god complex goes completely unchecked. There is no rubber man immune to lightning, no captain reckless enough to ride a giant python straight into God's shrine. His mantra, his lightning, his arc maxim remain the absolute law of the clouds. He continues testing his Rego on anyone who resists, turning entire cloud forests into smoking craters. No one rings the bell. Nolan stays a liar in the history books. Calgara's promise never echoes down to the blue sea. The poneglyph hidden in Shandora's golden city remains untouched, its message about the ancient weapon and the void century sealed away. Robin never stands beneath that ruined pillar, never feels the tremors of history aligning with the present. The world below loses one of its earliest hints that the so-called gods and the world government's story are built on lies. And the crew loses even more. Skypiea is where Luffy casually challenges a god, where Zoro and Sanji fight until their bodies are wrecked, where Nami navigates literal vertical oceans, where Robin's ability finally matters to more than bounty posters. Thanks to his new ability to pull everyone into impossible situations and then somehow win, their bonds harden there. Remove that arc and any surviving Straw Hats stay weaker, both in power and in trust. They never learn what it feels like to topple a god together. Here is the crazy part. Skypiea becomes a dark prototype for Dressrosa. In canon, Luffy liberates both hidden kingdoms from smiling tyrants. In this warped timeline, Alabasta falls, Skypiea rots in the sky, and when Dressrosa's time comes, there is no Straw Hat pattern of liberation to oppose Doflamingo. The age that follows is not the age of pirate heroes. It is the age of unchecked tyrants writing their own myths. And as those myths harden, one more route quietly shifts. The path toward Water 7, Aeneas Lobby, and the war against the world government itself, Water 7. Without a flag burner, Robin's fate, and the lost declaration of war, Water 7 is still there. The sea train still runs. CP9 is still in the shadows, but without Luffy, the entire route into that saga twists into something colder. Robin's story is where the tremors hit first. In canon, the moment she climbs onto the Going Merry after Alabasta, Luffy's insane acceptance gives her a home no other crew would risk. He protects her in Skypiea, trusts her around poneglyphs, and later is willing to destroy an entire judicial island just to pull her back from despair. But what if that foundation never exists? Without Luffy's aura of unconditional trust, Robin either never joins the Straw Hats or joins a broken version of them held together by guilt and fear instead of faith. In this darker timeline, the crew limps toward Water 7. If it even reaches that far, there is no captain laughing off danger, no idiot declaring that a former Baroque works officer is one of us. Zoro is focused on strength and survival. Nami is counting every risk. Sanji is guarding what remains. Robin, sensing that, stays on the edge. She is useful but never fully trusted, and she knows it. The world government knows her too. The first sign that the old nightmare of O'Hara still rules her life is CP9's quiet interest. The government does not need a Straw Hat declaration of war to move. Robin's ability to read poneglyphs alone is enough. So CP9 still infiltrates Water 7. They still prepare a Buster Call key. But this time, there is no captain willing to stand on the front lines and burn the flag of Eni's lobby. Without Luffy, there is no rooftop standoff, no screaming defiance. Robin is captured like a ghost. No Usopp sniping a symbol of world order out of the sky. No Straw Hat lineup announcing themselves as enemies of the strongest power on the sea. The "I want to live" awakening never happens, because there is no one stubborn enough to force her to say those words. Instead, Robin is transported in chains, quietly. Interrogated in a sealed room, quietly. Either executed to erase O'Hara's last scholar, or locked and impelled down long before any mass breakout can shake those walls. The Straw Hats, scattered and demoralized, cannot even reach the gate, let alone turn Eni's lobby into a battlefield. And the crazy part was that the world never gets that one crucial message. In canon, Eni's lobby shouts that you can defy the government and live. Here, the lesson is the opposite: obey or vanish. Just how much does that change the age of piracy when Marineford finally erupts and there is no Straw Hat flag anywhere near the war? Because as the Marines prepare their greatest execution, another absence on that scaffold will reshape everything next. Impel Down stays shut. The prison break that never was. Because as the Marines prepare their greatest execution, another absence on that scaffold will reshape everything next. In canon, the road to that scaffold runs straight through hell. Impel Down becomes Luffy's personal battlefield, a prison raid powered by desperation. The moment he throws himself into that underwater fortress to save Ace, the entire balance of the world quietly starts to crack. One reckless rookie storms the strongest prison on the seas and walks out with a small army. But what if that never happens because Luffy's body is already buried under Alabasta's sand? In the original timeline, his presence inside Impel Down is a constant pattern interrupt. He crashes through levels, ignores protocol, and drags chaos in his wake. Buggy and Mr. 3 stumble into freedom behind him. Crocodile, stripped of his warlord title and rotting in level 6, is released as a reluctant ally. Jinbei breaks his chains. Ivankov awakens in level 5.5, and together they ignite a prison break so violent that even Magellan's poison cannot fully contain it. Those tremors from Impel Down echo directly into Marineford. Here, there is no such quake. Crocodile never falls. There is no public defeat, no loss of status, no humiliating trip to level 6. He keeps his Shichibukai seat, his aura of invincibility, and his secret hunt for Pluton. Yet without that humbling low point or the strange camaraderie of Impel Down and Marineford, he never becomes that unpredictable wildcard who shields Luffy from Akainu's magma. He remains what the world government wanted him to be from the start: a cold, calculating warlord whose ability serves the system, not a future enemy of it. Jinbei's fate twists just as hard. In canon, Luffy's stubborn insistence on saving Ace pulls Jinbei out of his cell and drags him into the war. That shared blood on the battlefield, that vow under Whitebeard's flag, and later the promise on Fishman Island, all of it grows from Impel Down's darkness. Without Luffy, Jinbei is either left to rust in prison or forced to keep playing the government's game as a loyal Shichibukai. There is no Straw Hat helmsman, no open backing for Fishman Island's political awakening, and no human pirate captain standing as the symbol of a new era for fishermen. And then there is the Revolutionary Army. The crazy part was that Impel Down is where the world first connects Dragon's name, his son, and open rebellion in one continuous chain. Thanks to his new ability to turn every disaster into an opportunity, Luffy literally crashes into Ivankov and the new Kama, forging a living bridge between the shadows and the main stage. Without that, Dragon's forces keep fighting a quiet, invisible war, but there is no Straw Hat symbol burned into Marineford's sky to rally behind. Systemically, this is everything the world government ever wanted. Impel Down stays sealed. No mass escape of level 6 legends. No sudden influx of desperate monsters flooding the new world at the exact same moment the Yonko balance starts to shake. The seas remain brutal, but predictable. The strongest criminals are caged, the Shichibukai line remains unbroken, and the status quo survives its greatest stress test without even realizing how close it came to collapsing. So, when Ace is finally led to the execution platform, there is no rubber storm tearing open the gates of hell to reach him. And that means the war for Marineford begins under rules that overwhelmingly favor the Marines. But just how much does that advantage matter when Whitebeard still comes to claim his son, and the era's strongest monster still decides to shake the entire world? Marineford. Without the Straw Hat storm, Marineford still ignites. The world still holds its breath as the son of the Pirate King is dragged to the center of Marine headquarters in chains. But what if this time, when the cameras turn and the warships form a ring of steel, there is no Straw Hat sailing toward the execution stand at all? Ace is still captured by Blackbeard. Teach still cashes in his prize with the Marines to claim a warlord title and a ticket into the war. Whitebeard still answers with an armada that splits the sea. The battlefield still shakes as the era's strongest monster rises from his chair and declares that he has come for his son. The only thing missing is the wildcard who, in canon, turned the entire war into a chaos storm. The first sign of that difference hits the execution platform. In the original timeline, Luffy's insane charge, Ivankov's miracles, and Buggy's clown show constantly disrupt the tempo. The Marines are forced to react, to improvise, to delay the final order again and again. Here, Sengoku doesn't have to juggle a rubber intruder, escaped Impel Down monsters, and a live global broadcast spinning out of control. The admirals can focus purely on destruction and containment. That means Ace's execution clock runs much faster. There is no desperate race up the scaffold, no moment where Ace looks down and sees his little brother, bloodied yet still laughing, and remembers that he wants to live. His will stays chained to guilt. When the order comes, it comes clean. Two blades rise, and this time, no Conqueror's hockey blast from a collapsing Luffy knocks the executioners out. Ace dies early in the war in front of the entire world, with no miracle interrupt. The moment he falls, the tremors that rip through Whitebeard are not from his devil fruit. They are from grief. In canon, Ace's rescue gives Whitebeard a brief surge of purpose before the second tragedy. Here, that anchor is cut instantly. His power still tears the seas apart, but his aura shifts from defiant to suicidal. He is no longer fighting to open a path for a new generation. He is simply trying to destroy as much as possible before the Marines finally bring him down. So, when Whitebeard finally roars that the One Piece is real, the line still echoes across the entire world, but without Luffy standing on that battlefield as living proof of the next era, it feels different. Less torch passing, more last gasp. The government can frame it as the ravings of a dying monster rather than a call to awakening. This also changes Blackbeard's timing. He still arrives with his crew in his darkness, still hungry for the Gura Gura no Mi. But a less exhausted Marine force with admirals who haven't burned their stamina chasing Luffy's chaos can respond far more quickly. Teach's ambush is riskier. Sengoku and Garp are fresher. Kizaru's light can pin them down before they finish their ritual. There is a real chance that Blackbeard never completes the theft, or does so at a catastrophic cost, turning his rise into a blood-soaked scramble instead of a clean ascension. And the war's message to the world? In canon, Marineford is a Marine victory that still births a new age of pirates. Luffy's survival, his impossible escapes, and his sheer refusal to break become the emotional center of a global awakening. But here, the broadcast ends on a colder image. The Pirate King's son executed on schedule. Whitebeard crushed without a straw hat-shaped miracle. Blackbeard either contained or forced to flee in disgrace. The Great Pirate Era doesn't feel like a storm breaking free. It feels like a cage slamming shut. Yet power hates a vacuum. If Luffy never crashes Marineford, someone else has to become the next storm. The question is, who steps into that empty spotlight once the blood on the plaza finally dries? Who fills the void? Law, Kid, Blackbeard, and the race for the throne. The first sign that something is fundamentally broken in this timeline is simple. No one replaces Luffy's presence on the world stage. His power was never just rubber punches. He was the loudest declaration that the new era would be reckless, hopeful, and free. But what if that declaration gets buried under Alabasta's sand? The will of D still whispers through the world, but its strongest, and most unhinged voice never reaches the new world. That silence creates a vacuum, and the sea hates silence. Into that empty spotlight steps Eustace Kid. In canon, Kid is already infamous for butchering civilians and ruling through fear. Without Luffy's chaotic kindness constantly stealing headlines, Kid becomes the primary face of the worst generation. The moment he lands on Sabaody, there is no rubber fool laughing in front of a celestial dragon. Only a pirate captain who treats the entire archipelago like a battlefield. His aura becomes the template for the age. Bloodier brawls, fewer miracles, more corpses left as warnings. Just how much darker does the era feel when the super rookies are led by a man who believes terror is the only real currency? Kid's rise doesn't inspire dreamers. It scares them back into their homes. Sus, the world government points at him and says, "This is what pirates are," and for once the world believes it. On the opposite side of the spectrum, Trafalgar Law still watches from the shadows. Law's ability and ambition haven't changed, but his calculations have. Without Luffy as a future wildcard, his entire Doflamingo Kaido assassination plot turns into a suicide note. Does he still walk into Punk Hazard knowing there is no rubber storm coming to flip the table? Or does he redirect that surgical hatred toward easier, more insidious targets? In a world where Crocodile survives Alabasta and quietly grows into a desert emperor with Pluton intel, Law has a new problem. A Shichibukai turned Shadow King with a global network looks a lot like Dressrosa's puppet master, just wearing sand instead of strings. Yet the most dangerous beneficiary is still Marshal D. Teach. With fewer unpredictable tremors shaking history, Blackbeard's ascent becomes terrifyingly smooth. Ace still falls, Whitebeard still dies. Teach still steals the Gura Gura no Mi and awakens as the strongest new monster on the sea. But now there is no Straw Hat fleet forming, no future Yonko Luffy to contest him, no massive Impel Down breakout to flood the battlefield with wild variables. The crazy part was that the next generation never properly awakens at all. Blackbeard doesn't just join the Yonko, he defines them. Meanwhile, Crocodile and Doflamingo start to look like two sides of the same sanctioned nightmare. Both are Shichibukai. Both build underground empires. Both weaponize the government's blessing to destroy entire nations from the inside. Without Luffy, Alabasta never receives its miracle, and Dressrosa's tragedy lasts even longer. The new era stops being a clash between free pirates and a rigid government. It mutates into a war between competing brands of licensed tyrants, each wrapped in official approval. And if the age is ruled by Blackbeard's darkness on top and Crocodile Doflamingo syndicates below, who is left to light a match against that suffocating order? The golden age of the world government. A darker, quieter sea. The terrifying answer is simple: almost no one. With Luffy gone in Alabasta, the age that follows looks calmer on the surface, but the calm hides chains. The sea stops roaring, it starts whispering. The first sign is what never happens. No Alabasta liberation broadcast through rumors of a rookie punching a warlord into the sky. No Skypiea golden bell ringing across the clouds, proving that the empty heavens still hold forgotten history. No Eni's lobby flag burning on live transponder feed. No declaration of war against the world government echoing into every tavern. Without Luffy, the world never watches Impel Down's walls crack or Marineford's plaza shake under a pirate captain who refuses to die. Each missing battle is a missing symbol. Each missing symbol is one less story that says the government can lose. And that changes everything. In this timeline, a resistance doesn't vanish, but it never gets its awakening moment. People still hate, still suffer, still dream. But what if all they ever see are Marines standing tall and pirates dying face down in the mud? The aura of invincibility around the world government hardens into something close to religion. Inside that new faith, the Shichibukai looks stronger than ever. Crocodile is never exposed as the architect of Alabasta's fall. He stays a decorated hero on paper, the man who stabilized a desert kingdom racked by rebellion. Doflamingo keeps Dressrosa smiling and bleeding in the dark, but without a straw hat storm tearing off the mask, his toys stay toys, not evidence. The system that was supposed to be a necessary evil never becomes a public embarrassment. Instead, it becomes a pillar. The government points to these licensed tyrants and says, "Look, order works." For the Revolutionary Army, this is the worst possible battlefield. Dragon still moves in the shadows, still strikes at supply lines and corrupt kings. But he loses the strongest unplanned ally he never asked for, his own son's legend. In canon, Luffy's rampage turns him into a living contradiction of the government's propaganda. Here, that contradiction dies in a pool of sand. The average citizen hears of small cells crushed, islands protected, and pirates executed. They do not hear about a rubber man ringing the sky or burning a flag. Just how much harder is it to recruit when hope is a rumor and not a broadcast? Even the Yonko era looks deceptively stable. Big Mom still rules Totoland. Kaido still turns Wano into a factory of death. Blackbeard still hunts power in the dark. But without Luffy's insane ability to slip between emperors, steal allies, and destroy the entire balance, their territories crack less, their empires rot more quietly. No Dressrosa liberation to free gladiators. No whole cake chaos to humiliate a Yonko. No Wano uprising led by a straw hat banner. The New World becomes a distant nightmare, not a stage for revolution. On the surface, this is the golden age of the world government. Fewer open wars, fewer public disasters. Trade routes stay open, buster calls stay rare, and the news sings about peace. But beneath that calm, kingdoms like Alabasta and Dressrosa decay under smiling monsters protected by law. Stories of defiance still exist, but they are told in basements, not shouted on execution platforms. So the world gets its quiet. The sea stops screaming. But what if the price of that silence is the pirate king that never was, and a darkness that no one is strong enough to destroy when it finally decides to move? The Straw Hat grave and the era that never began. So if that's the price, then it all comes back to a quiet patch of desert, far from Marineford, far from Blackbeard's schemes and Doflamingo's strings. There is only wind, sand, and a single straw hat. No grand tomb, no monument, just a rough mound where Crocodile left a broken body to dry out under the sun, and where someone, Vivi, Karu, or a grieving crew, pressed that hat into the sand as the last marker of a dream. This is the Straw Hat grave, the place where one possible pirate king was destroyed before his story could even awaken. The moment he fell, the entire world tilted. Crocodile didn't just win a duel. He won a kingdom, a poneglyph, and years of unchecked influence. Alabasta never fully healed. The war for its soul ended with a warlord's victory and a princess forced to rule around a scar that never closes. From there, the tremors spread. Without Luffy dragging them forward, the Straw Hats fracture. Zoro walks away into a harsher, lonelier training hell. Nami returns to the sea as a navigator for hire. Sanji disappears into the underworld kitchens that will never quite wash the taste of defeat out of his mouth. Usopp and Chopper cling to smaller crews, smaller dreams. They keep moving, but the aura around them is different. They are survivors, not a family. Because Luffy dies here, Skypiea's bell never rings across the sky to prove that a forgotten island existed. Enies Lobby's flag never burns in front of the entire world. Robin never hears the words, "Say you want to live" on that bridge. Impel Down never erupts into the greatest prison break in history. Marineford becomes a colder, more efficient execution ground. A battlefield without that one idiot who turns a war into a question. Just how much of the Great Pirate Era was actually the wake of one reckless rubber kid's ship? This timeline answers that. Without Luffy, the sea belongs to predators. Blackbeard rises faster. Kid leans harder into raw destruction. Crocodile cements his desert empire. Doflamingo keeps smiling while strings tighten around kingdoms and markets. The world government gets its closest thing to a golden age, and the pirates that thrive are the ones who play by its hidden rules. But what if the story doesn't quite end at that grave? What if someone finds that hat half buried in the sand and refuses to leave it there? Could Zoro pick it up and lead a darker version of the crew, cutting down anyone who stands between him and the title his captain was denied? If Ace survives Marineford in this world, does he come to Alabasta, kneel at that mound, and swear to inherit his brother's will in a very different way? The crazy part was that this whole what-if shows how Luffy isn't just strong. He is the variable that turns a controlled, oppressive system into a chaotic, hopeful revolution. His survival in Alabasta is the thin line between a quiet world owned by the government and a new dawn where pirates dare to challenge the entire order. So now it's your turn. In your version of this timeline, does Crocodile eventually overreach and destroy himself? Does Law set his sights on Crocodile instead of Doflamingo? Does another D rise from the shadows to shake the world that Luffy never got to break? Drop your own Alabasta grave timelines in the comments, and tell which One Piece what-if should be torn apart next in this same step-by-step, world-breaking style.